Good afternoon, everyone. Happy start of November. Welcome to our webcast, The Rise of Advanced BI, highlighting the results from our recent Emerging BI and Analytics study. My name is Allison Crawford, and I'll be your host for today's session. Technology Business Research's focus is to provide business research to accelerate our clients' success, and this webinar is a part of these ongoing efforts to find new ways to support you and your business, helping you get the most out of your research investments. As we'll highlight during this session, BI is an area attracting customer interest and significant investment, representing an important opportunity for vendors in the IT space to generate growth. This webinar is one example of the topical research around which we will connect our readers with analysts, state the results and insights from our cutting-edge research. Through the activities, our goal is consistent: to provide actionable insight into the market and competitive strategies that translates into competitive success for our clients. In the next 45 minutes, analyst Allan Krans will delve into the trends driving the results featured in this recently released study, followed by Q&A of these trends and how they'll affect you. Pass this over to Allan. I'd like to do a little housekeeping. First, we are recording today's session and posting it to our YouTube site, TRI channel. I urge you to visit this channel to watch this presentation or any of the others we posted. Second, we'd like to hear your opinions and thoughts on our materials we're presenting. Please send any questions you may have through the function or the chat function. I'm going to address them at the end of the presentation. Or if you'd like to set up a client inquiry for deeper discussion, please reach out directly to Allan at the end of the webinar, and we'll add the CC to your account executive to set up a discussion. Third, we're going to send out the slides to everyone registered for today's webcast within 24 hours of the conclusion of the presentation. You can find the slides, as well as our other thought leadership pieces, their webinar decks, and commentaries on SlideShare at www.slideshare.net/TBR_market_insight. Now let me introduce Allan Krans. Allan has been covering and writing about the software market for over 7 years and is leading our research coverage in BI and analytics. His insight is helping our clients navigate this new territory and uncover opportunities to grow their businesses. With that, let me hand this over to Allan.
Great. Thanks, Allison. And thanks, everybody, for joining today. What today's time to cover was the next thing in BI. We've done a number of adoption studies, looked at current levels across different technologies in different markets, but really, in terms of the opportunity moving forward, it's about the next capability, that next technology that is really driving most of the customer spending and investment over the next 3 years. So when we get that next wave of investment going beyond just the traditional BI tools that have been the mainstay of customer usage today, there's a couple of things in the market that we see really creating the perfect environment for increased usage of these advanced and emerging capabilities. And this comes from both the technology side, where the offerings are more abundant and more proven in the market, making them more ready for adoption across a wider segment of customers, and a drive by customers to increase the pace of their investment in BI and analytics solutions. And really, both of these things is the foundation of customers looking to make better decisions, generate competitive advantage in the market. So with that in mind, both the vendor side and the customer side, we see more focus around that set of capabilities in BI and analytics that ultimately results in that competitive advantage for users in the market. Through each of these key themes as it came out in our BI and analytics adoption research. The first one is how the emerging BI and advanced BI functions are moving from the wish list for customers today to the punch list for customers in the future in terms of getting them off and really getting those technologies implemented in their infrastructures. First, with the technologies, in contrast, those things that have driven a lot of the investment today with those advanced and emerging capabilities that, as we'll see, will really claim a lot of that future-looking investment as customers go through and execute on the growth plans that laid out. So he entered the technologies into two groups: the future growth drivers the legacy group, legacy drivers, and you know that they're sorted from largest to smallest, not in terms of the current adoption, which is the biggest bump you see for all those technologies on the chart, but in terms of future adoption, starting with that 12-month time frame, going right through that 3-year time window in terms of the technologies that customers plan to adopt for those time frames. So a couple things to highlight here. Obviously, those future growth drivers, the advanced and emerging capabilities, cluster on the left, ending that, just highlighting the overall premise that those advanced and emerging capabilities are higher, were noted more frequently in terms of those technologies that customers are going to invest in the future. And then right, the legacy drivers. To note that the size of those bars, it's important to understand that those traditional investments in the core BI tool set, things like reporting, data mining, analytics processing, those things that aren't going to go away. There's large existing investments there that will be maintained going forward. But in terms of where customers really want to place their future investment dollars, you see a greater focus on those things like cloud, mobile, predictive that don't have high levels of adoption today, but are leading the consideration for those future investments going forward. Note on this is that when you think about from the customer perspective how they're planning out and staging their investments, this almost universally for all these technologies, there's a down from time frame. So as they go through that 3-year time window, their plans become less concrete. Those investments are less structured and set in stone, and that they're really looking at that 12-month and then the 24-month timeline for the firm plans that they're going to be moving forward with. You know, in terms of if we fast forward a couple of years and look at this chart, we would expect to see more variance in that 24 to 36-month time window where, you know, the lower level of adoption really reflects that customers just as certain about what technologies are actually going to be implementing over that longer-term time frame. So with context and background laid, we want to go a little bit deeper just into that future perspective, reset the scale in the chart a little bit so that you can get a deeper view into how the adoption rates vary across the different technologies over those 3 different time windows. So when we test, obviously, you know, we tested a couple different benefits and capabilities here. So the ones that we've highlighted, these are the ones that garnered the most planned adoption in the 12-month time frame. And as opposed to being capabilities, they're really delivery methods. It's about getting analytics capabilities and BI capabilities onto mediums like mobile devices so that there's a more flexible pattern for that technology. And then with cloud, same type of idea. It's less about the specific analytics functionality, a more flexible, efficient, cost-effective way to deliver it that customers really want to use cloud as part of the delivery for those BI solutions. So we see efforts here in terms of just a real desire for more flexible delivery and consumption of BI amongst customers. And, you know, composing that top tier as well, predictive analytics. This is, again, something that maybe isn't a specific capability, but overall reflects desire amongst customers to have a more predictive element to their BI and analytics solutions so they can get at that quicker making better decisions, more predictive outcome that ultimately gives them some business advantage in the market. And then another thing to note is the social media analytics, a real cutting edge area here. We've seen a number of vendors start to look at this and promote this as part of their value proposition to customers. So leveraging the vast amounts of data that is being generated through new sources. These are really things that didn't exist 5, 10 years ago, but there's a belief among customers that they can be valuable sources of information that can, to their business decisions, give them advantage if they can understand customer trends more deeply. So those are information sources, really, that they're looking to tap and use AI and analytics in order to exploit. Really, things in terms of the technologies that customers want to achieve over the next 12 months, 24 months, 3 years. And you can see that in addition to some of the more specific capabilities, really about more flexible delivery and ultimately more predictive analysis that they believe gets better business results and will justify their investment in those technologies over those time frames. The second we wanted to cover is, so we looked at the technologies, who are customers that are going to be driving this wave of investment? What segments do they ride in? Where is this spending going to come from, so that for vendors and providers in this space, you can anticipate that, accommodate their requirements and needs, and look to proactively proposition these segments of customers in order to garner their investment in these solutions over the coming 3 years. So kind of universally, we've looked at the planned adoption of advanced and emerging technologies, by those specific technologies against one another. We'll roll it up here and look at, of businesses, plan to adopt at least one of those advanced or emerging technologies. So number is 60%, so a significant portion of customers plan on adopting at least one of those solutions over the next 2-year time frame. Get to this rise of that second wave of analytics capabilities that customers really, do investing moving forward. There will be opportunity created around these segments. It's not simply the traditional BI tool set that will continue to drive the growth. It's the 60% of customers investing in those advanced capabilities, new delivery methods, new predictive capabilities that is going to drive a lot of the future opportunity for vendors in this space over the next 2 years. With that top line, go a little bit deeper and use this view. We said it's useful to segment the market into 4 groups, and the metrics that we've used to do that are, first, current levels of adoption. And all the customers that we surveyed, there was 300 in total. Given their investments across the different technologies and the depth of the implementation of those, who are the people who have been leading the investment to date, who have really built up the most sizable infrastructure in terms of BI and analytics, and then what is the back half of customers that haven't been as aggressive in terms of implementing these technologies, so that we can get that leaders and laggards from a current adoption standpoint. So add to that is the planned investment over that 12-month, 24-month, 36-month time frame. So who are the people who have more aggressive investment plans, who are going to have deeper penetration across more of those advanced and emerging technologies, and who are just going to have a bigger capital outlay in terms of getting these technologies implemented over those time frames. So with those 2 views, identify 4 quadrants of the customer market. There's people, these are people who are immature compared to peers today, and also don't plan to invest on par with their peers going forward. The emerging segment are those people, again, that don't have the same scale of investments today, but they do plan to out-invest peers going forward. There's a shift in their behavior that there's going to be an increased level of investment going forward. On the right-hand side of the quadrants, we have the leading and slipping. These are both today, but the difference is the leading people are going to continue investing at a pace on par with peers. Slipping are going to coast a bit, not maintain that same level of investment. So with that, you can see the curve, and so this represents the amount of customers that fell into each of those quadrants. So in terms of where the investment is going to come from going forward, you can see that hump in the improved category. There's more customers there that than any of the other segments that invested don't feel like they've kept pace with the competitors in the market today in terms of BI and analytics capabilities, spurring increased investment going forward. So in terms of where the spending is going to come from, it's those customers in that improving category. So the customers that have generated most of the market opportunity today not be those customers that really carry the market going forward. Look for laggards to really come in and increase their levels of investment here over the next 12 months. So with that top level in mind, the next view that we're going into in terms of where the spending is going to come from, look at different sizes of customers. So we segmented it into three groups for the study: mid-market, large enterprise, very large enterprise. Have some of the definitions there. The important thing about this chart is that when we the sizes, in contrast the basics, which is really the traditional core tool set, you see just significantly higher levels of adoption across those technologies compared with the rest of the offerings and capabilities that we tested. So within that basic tool set, you can see the large enterprise and the very large enterprise, for the most part, have exceeded mid-market levels of investment. So that's so it's not only those companies that have been leading in terms of adoption, but as you would expect, it's those companies with more resources, more size, more initiative to really invest in these technologies that have carried it, and that falls in the large enterprise and the very large enterprise customers. That is going forward for the advanced and emerging tools, you see all of a sudden a lot closer parity in terms of mid-market investment, and in some cases more mid-market investment in some of those tool sets that haven't been as widely adopted today, that are really going to be driving the next wave of growth around AI and analytics. So not only from an infrastructure standpoint do we see folks that haven't invested as much so far catching up, we see below that the mid-market is really going to be where spending is going to occur. It's going to be smaller customers investing to capture these capabilities, while large enterprise, very large enterprise, they'll maintain those investments in the core tool set, but won't be as raptors of the new advanced and emerging capabilities. Okay, so we understand not only the technologies that are going to drive adoption, but also some segmentation of where the spending is going to come from, what are going to be the hot pockets of investment in terms of customer segment and install-based perspective. The last thing that we wanted to cover was to look at, all right, so with that in mind, what are customers actually looking for? What are expectations for what these capabilities are going to deliver for them that justifies that investment? So we at this in a couple different ways, and I'll walk through this. So starting on the left, first question that we wanted to answer in order to really understand the behavior was, in that have adopted, that plan to adopt, which within those customers are actually going to be using the solutions? Who is the intended user base for the BI and analytics capabilities? And what we found was a concentration of usage in sales and finance departments. So this is really looking at financial decisions, plan decisions, forecasting decisions, things that play into the overall business strategy in the allocation of resources. It was concentration of usage in the sales and finance function. Second, we wanted to understand, given that we know who's going to be using it, how are they going to be using it? What are they going to be doing? What outcome that they want to achieve given these investments in BI analytics? We have a number of different elements to this. We'll go through a deeper view of it in just a minute. But when we put it all up, we looked at the use is really to predictive capability and ultimately make better decisions more quickly to either deliver business benefits or reduce cost. So that time pressure, it's the quality pressure, so making sure that you get the right data in the hands of the right people so that decisions can be made, strategies can be laid out, and you have that time advantage in terms of making decisions and going forward very quickly with understanding that the data is correct and actionable. And then, so if they're making better decisions more quickly, what is the ultimate outcome that they're looking to get out of it? So in addition to reducing cost, that ties into the overall efficiency that customers are looking to get out of these solutions. Ultimately, it wasn't about cost for cost's sake. It was this focus on generating opportunity, expanding, growing. Those are all outcomes. It's not just an internal efficiency perspective. They will be able to use these tools and investments to go out and capture new opportunity that expands their business. That is the ultimate driver for all these investments in BI and analytics. Now, at the bottom, we've included that because it really wraps up this customer behavior in a very concise way. But you have this desire to locate hidden areas of growth, things that aren't currently on the surface, identified today. Again, it's at predictive, looking at social media capabilities, new sort of information, new ways to look at it, aren't taught today, aren't able to be integrated into the business processes, and then be able to track those future opportunities. So not only identify them, but have the metadata that supports actual business decisions, these customers to go out and capitalize on that in a way that delivers results to their bottom line. So that's the summary for the customer behavior. I wanted to go a little bit deeper in terms of providing more perspective around those elements for how customers are using it, who's using it. So here, when we ask people, functions are going to be the ultimate users of investments in BI and analytics solutions. Concentration of sales and finance. So that concentrates around a number of different within these accounts. But we also want to provide some of the perspective for other areas that are ultimate users of BI and analytics within these. So some things like fraud detection, lower desk, but still compliance, auditing, all those things do play into BI and analytics. However, when we ask people ultimately who the big users are, again, I just concentrated in sales and finance, but multiple different stakeholders in terms of these investments, ranging from compliance right through a lot of the operational aspects, procurement, supply chain. So really range of usage, but in terms of those top priorities, it really resides in a lot of the sales and financing functions. Secondly, so here we have a lot of those drivers for what led to the actual purchase. Things like efficiency, improved decision making, speed analysis and decision making. You do have reduced expenses. It's not solely on business improvement. There is a cost element here that I think is in play for any customer out there. But ultimately, if they had, their preference, it would be using these to expand the business, capture new opportunity, and doing that through better decision making. Again, so you have ensure regulatory compliance. There's that element of risk and auditing that plays into these, but really driven by that desire to improve efficiency, improve decision making, and do it in a more timely way. All right, so we wanted to wrap up and that. So we've gone through and understood all the ways that, from the technology side, the emerging BI solutions, they really are moving from the wish list to the punch list. They're going to be top of mind for customers in terms of those future investments. That, keep it in perspective, there are those legacy tools. They're not going away. However, that future wave of adoption and those top-of-mind technologies really go beyond the core tool set out to advanced capabilities like cloud, mobile, predictive, things that ultimately create competitive advantage for customers and their peers. That it's not just going to be the traditional large enterprises that have carried the market so far, which are going to be leading this wave of growth, to be a new set of customers that haven't invested on par with peers to date, and that a lot of that spending is going to come in mid-market customers. When we look at ultimately what's going to drive this desire for investment in customers, it's expansion enabled by better decision making, more efficient, more timely, that gives them a competitive advantage to go out and deliver those financial results in the market. So we'll hand it back over to Allison, and we'll open it up for questions.
Great, Allan. We've had a couple of questions come through. So if you have any questions based on the information that Allan has just presented, please let us know. The first question that came through, who are customers considering to deliver these advanced BI capabilities? Is it different than current tools purchases?
Well, I think there are a number of elements that play into this. As part of the broad study, we did look at vendor top of mind, planned investment, as well as who's been the providers to date for the existing purchases. And we see a bit of a shift. There is more of a openness to consider new providers. They aren't necessarily tied to the current providers in terms of their existing BI solutions. There is more willingness to brands look at different vendors with the advanced and emerging capabilities. I think part of one element of it is who's doing the future purchasing. As you see that shift in customers that haven't invested as heavily today, don't have the same type of install base as their peers. There's more flexibility to go out and implement new technologies, look to different providers for those. Secondly, it also ties into the types of capabilities they're looking at implementing. We get into cloud, mobile. A lot of times the leaders in the space or top-of-mind vendors aren't, the traditional solutions providers. So I think that drives more of a willingness to evaluate new vendors as well going forward, and really create more opportunity for smaller providers in the space, not just the big-name BI providers. So a question came in over chat. It says, why cloud BI and mobile BI expected to drive BI technology purchasing over other needs? Example, social BI. When we looked at the advanced and emerging, including cloud and mobile, a lot of those, they really are more delivery methods rather than unique capabilities. So we were talking with customers about this. It really came out in a lot of the interviews that we did that these are elements of the BI solutions that they'd like to implement. It's, in that you could have some overlap with cloud and a number of the different capabilities that we tested. It's really just the way that it's delivered, but that in terms of the next stage of investment in analytics, the delivery was really a big emphasis, and I think that's reflected in cloud and mobile being the two ends that really had the highest consideration and planned adoption over the next 12 months, because there's that desire to have more delivery flexibility in terms of the AI capabilities.
The next question that came is, what is the biggest expectation from customers when making BI purchases? Is it cost?
So in terms of, when they evaluate vendors, when they look to justify these solutions, certainly plays a big factor. And going forward, when we look at more mid-market adoption of BI technologies, I think that becomes more prominent. Certainly there is that expectation of, or a need for cost to be competitive and on par with other solutions in terms of allowing them to move forward more budget constrained with that smaller set of customers. But also, when we looked at the advanced and emerging capabilities, cost is really baked into a lot of those elements that customers are looking to implement. Things like cloud and mobile. A lot of times, was that cost element that it's not just the purchase price of the solutions, it's overall efficiency in terms of how it's delivered. So being able to support it and deploy it on a cloud platform or in a lower way in terms of delivering it to a mobile device, cost is an element of it, but overall I think the flexibility and the business advantage that is delivered through the solutions, I think in all cases really outweighed cost as the sole considered in terms of which vendors or which solutions to move forward with.
Okay, the next question that came through, you discussed different groups of customers, but are there attributes for who will be investing?
Yeah, absolutely, because some of it is baked into the customers that we looked at in terms of the size and the number of employees. But there's a number of different elements that were included as part of our broader study, looking at not only the size, but the geography, the difference between American adoption and European adoption. Those are the two geographies that we covered with the study. As vertical, so when we cut it by the vertical, there's a lot of, you get the leaders and laggers view, but it makes it a lot more actionable to understand customers within a certain vertical, by a certain customer size. You can see the differences in terms of, the business environment in those areas and what's led them both in terms of the compilation of their current investments, but also how that changes going forward, the environmental pressures that are going to either cause them to back or accelerate the investment in BI going forward, and ultimately, what is the intended use of it? What the outcome that they're looking for, the use case, if you will, variably by industry.
Great. We had one final question come through. What are the sticking points for customers to implement BI?
All the biggest sticking point that we saw was tighter alignment between the IT department and the data management side of this overall solution, that for people who really invested today, they've gone to a lot of these organizational changes and IT changes in order to have confidence in the data, to have an efficient approach to how it's managed, so that BI solutions that lay on top of it, there's confidence in the output of that they can really go forward and change the way that they make decisions. I think that was the biggest tipping point that we saw among customers that have bought in around BI and analytics as an integral part of their business strategy is there's decision making from go over the hypothesis and then looking to pull in the data to support it, to using the data to guide decisions, to highlight areas of opportunity, and to help them capitalize on that. So a big variance among customers that, if you look at that graph, the left side with the more immature, the right side with the more mature, big difference in terms of how they view data management and data quality. So I think it's not something top of mind for a lot of customers, but will end up being one of the biggest barriers as they move forward with planned investments in this area.
Great. Thanks, Allan, and I want to thank everyone for your questions. We hope you found this presentation valuable today. Before we sign off, there are a few things I'd like to follow up on. One, we are asking for your feedback on the quality of the presentation today, so if you can fill out that quick survey, we'd really appreciate it. We'd also like to encourage you to follow both Allan and TBR on Twitter. The Twitter handles are displayed here, so you guys can go out and follow Allan and TBR to get more insight onto what's happening in the market. And I'd like to remind you to follow us both on SlideShare and Twitter to get more information about this study as well as other studies we've been working on. I'll leave the chat function open for another few minutes to see if there's any follow-up or last-minute questions or requests to set up additional conversations. Hope you guys got out of this webinar, and we look forward to speaking with you soon. Thanks, everyone.